Okay, we are continuing Hilchos Tarovis. We're continuing with Kuf Chet. Okay, so we were finishing with Hey. Just want to point out, based on Hey, so the end of Hey, we read the Rama writes, Mutter lizalif stam yenam da mutter behana. So we're going to get into what's the difference between Yein Nesech and Stam Yenam soon, but I don't want to get into it too much today. Yein Nesech is Asr Daraisa of Hana'a, and Stam Yenam, so that's the whole question. It's Asr Goyish wine. It's definitely Asr to drink. The question is, what about Mutter? Are you allowed to get Hana from it? So the Ramah here clearly writes Mutter behana. The Ramah in Kuf Chaf Gimel and Kuf Nun Hey also writes it's 100%. Well, he definitely writes it's Mutter. Kuf Nun Hey 100% Mutter. Kuf Chaf Gimel he says it's Mutter. And then at the end the Ramah writes Tov L'Hachmer, and I understand Tov L'Hachmer is only going on using it for business. But Ayin Sham, and you can see what you think. Then that's the halacha clearly from the Mordechai, the Aruch Shulchan, real simple, and so it seems to be the halacha according to Kimat all the Achronim. Not much to discuss. However, the Shulchan Aruch itself over there in Kuf Chaf Gimel does say it's Aser by Hana. It's not the Ramah, it's the Shulchan Aruch writes it's Aser by Hana, and many explain on the Shulchan Aruch that doesn't apply nowadays. For example, the Erech Lechem, L'Maharikash, and others, that nowadays it's mutter for Yishmaelim. It's a machloket by Christians, and certainly one can be mekel behefsid. That's just what he writes. But anyway, just pointing out that
whether it is yain
that's about stam yenam. That's the only question there is by stam yenam. Yein nesach is yein nesach. Stam yenam is the question is what is it, and we'll get to there when we get to there to explain better. But just pointing out that it seems to be that is the way there's clear Ramah reads, that is the halacha. Perhaps one should be machmer. Madanei Shulchan writes it's good to be machmer, unless it's for refuah. Whatever. Shach depends how you want to understand his opinion. Same with the Pri Megadim. And some are mechalek. The Pri Chadash points out it might be a problem Tov L'Hachmer if your mamash getting real hana, but just a little fragrance in the air, he calls it a minor hana, and there everyone says you don't have to be machmer, but again, everyone's different opinions. Fine, let's move on from that topic. I just wanted also to point out, we learned, this is an interesting thing, it's asr to taste anything that's an isser achila, anything that's asr to eat. So are you allowed to taste it and spit it out? We're not talking about fasting days. We're talking about a machal iser. Can you just taste it and spit it out? So we learned yesterday, it's the Ramah says it's aser. So what's the source for that? Just interesting to point out. So the Shach points out the source is the Rivash, right? One of the Rishonim. The Gra says it's mashma from two Gemaras, Zayin Sham, one's in Chulin, one's in Brachos. But that's pretty much what we have to work with. And then there's that Isser Derab, so it's Mistama and Isser Derabanan of tasting, because you're going to spit it out, you're not swallowing. And then if it's the Isser itself, it's a Machal Isser shall Divreim, Midarabanan. Is there also an Isser to taste it? So there, the Pri Chadash says it's mutter, there's no Isser, it's mashma so from the Pri Megadim, and the Tzemach Tzedek says it's Aser. So I'll just present that as a machlokas. And so someone asked, what about mouthwash? If mouthwash is not kosher, for example, can you spit it out? So again, I'm sure there's different opinions on the matter, but number one, probably it's not ro'el achilas whatsoever, and so therefore I don't think it's going to be an issue. And often there's no isser in there, but yeah, it depends. And it might only be an isser derabanan that's in there. Okay, what I also wanted to point out is, this is the whole sugya of reicha. We're finishing the whole sugya of reicha, of odor in an oven. So really this is the source. We're going to get to this when we get to Hafrashas Challah, maybe Shin Chaf Bet in that general vicinity later on in your Deah. But really, this is the source for what to do with it when you're all done with the challah. So it's quite relevant to bring it in today. So can you burn your hafashas challah that you make in your house in your private oven? Is that a good idea or bad idea? So number one, should you throw it in the garbage, in a bag, or should you derech kavod, or should you burn it? So Mikar Din, one can do whichever they prefer. However, there's definitely it's better to burn it. Okay? The Mishnah, again, not everyone agrees. The Mishnah Brewer writes, Tafkov Vav, in Sivkat and Lamed, right? That's in Aruch, that it's a mitzvah to burn it, and it's either he says it's a machlokas if it's minatara or midarabanan, and he refers you to Gemara Shabbos Chaf Daled Amud Beit. So that's so anyway. So there you see, according to the Mishnah Berurah, it's a mitzvah, and also that we know with certain things that are asur behana, Mishnah has several places where it's ideal to burn it so that no one gets their hands on it. Secondary choice in Chazal is to put it in the garbage. So there's that. And now some point out also, you should just know, when you want to burn your challah, it's better, ideally, being practical, if it's very moist, it's going to be harder to burn. So it's better to let it dry out, maybe even in little pieces, and thin. A big ball will be harder, take longer to dry out and harder to burn than if you have if it's thin. Okay, now, so if you're going to burn it in your oven, what should you do? Because we hold the opinion of reicha is not a problem. Only on a b'diavad level, lechatchila, we try and avoid it. So if you're going to burn it open in your oven, how should you do it? So you don't want to put it directly on the grates because you might put food or something directly on your grates. The best thing to do is to put it on a piece of foil or a pan. That's miyuchad always just for burning challah. So that's the best way to do that. And some, I saw for example on the OU website, some say it's better, and others too, say it's better if it is open because it'll burn better, and there's nothing wrong with burning it open. Just if you're going to burn it open, don't burn it. No. I mean, don't foil wrap your challah. Some people say, we're about to get to that. Some say it's better to wrap your dough of challah and then burn it in the oven. The reason why they say that is because they don't want any reicha and zeya to get into the oven. But what we learned already, it's really an issue of reicha, not zeya, and reicha is only what? Zeya is where it becomes more of a problem. But by baking challah is considered dry heat, and it's not really a problem of zeya. Some people want to say it might be, but it's not. So why is it better? So they say it's better to wrap it up. So why? Because we know reicha is only a problem lechatchila if you're going to be doing it, roasting it at the same time with kosher food. So what's recommended by the OU is don't cook anything else at the same time, but put the challah open on a piece of foil in your oven while it's dry heat, and there's no issues of reicha once for the next time. Zeh achar zeh, from roasting on two different times, baking, there's no issue whatsoever. Reicha is only lechatchila at the same time, so there should be no issue. So why should you wrap it? So one reason is because you might come to get in the habit of burning it in the oven, and then you might burn it while you're cooking something else. So that's one reason. Also, I don't think it really applies to our case of an oven, but I've heard some people point to a Rabbi Kiva Eger who says there might be, I think it's in the beginning of our, where was it? I think it's towards the beginning of our, anyways, it's here. There's a Rabbi Kiva Eger who says there might be an issue. There might be an issue of reicha after zeya after recha. So now you're going to do something that with a lot of liquid afterwards. It might be an issue. Again, ayin sham, I don't know if it really applies to our large ovens, but okay. So anyway, but there is such a minhag to wrap it up. But it won't burn as well, and mikar didn't, there seems to be no problem, so some say it's better. The OU says it's better to do it while it's open, and also you can burn it directly on the grates once we're talking about challah, and that'll burn it well, and that's not a problem. I think that ends this. Right. By the way, I just wanted to point out, silver foil is a relatively new invention in modern history. And the Ramah writes, "Beferush in Hilchos Challah," that you just burn it in your oven. No questions, no worries, everything's fine. You just burn it in your oven, and that's a Beferush Ramah, and that really is the halacha.
Well, other things are in baking there too?
No, not at the same time as other things. That's lechatchila. You don't do that. Okay, fine. That's plenty for hafrashas challah. Sorry for that digression. Now let's get to vav. We're supposed to start with vav. Sak shel pilpeling v'zingavel shemesim bekan ke yain nesach. So here you have bottles of yain nesach. Wine that's used for avodah zarah, that was used for avodah zarah. Now, so it's mamash aser, right? The wine itself, you can't get hana from the wine. You can't smell the wine if that's going to give you hana, and you can't drink it. You can't use it. It's yain aser behana. So what's the case?
Is there wine in there?
Yeah, yeah. The case is there's wine inside. Now you have these barrels of yain nesach, and you put inside the barrels, you put bags of spices, whatever it is. It's spices. Yeah, so it's normally translated as pepper and ginger. That's fine. The Taz says it's our pilpul is different than the pilpul mentioned over here. Whatever it is, it's a spice that you smell because you enjoy the smell. That's all you need to know for the fragrance. And you put it in the barrel. So it's mutar lahariach bahem. The halacha is you're allowed to open up the barrel and smell the spices because that's what you're doing. So aval besamim lehavdala aser. Okay. Now to use these spices for the purpose of havdalah, it's considered ma'us. It's inappropriate because it's together with the yain nesach, which is aser behana. So it should not be used for the mitzvah. That's because of kavod for the mitzvah. But as far as smelling it, it's no problem. Why? Because you put the spices in there in order. Okay, you were the goy. Okay, fine. Chances are the cases we're talking about a goy. Very good. You put the spices in there in order to affect the wine or the goy. Okay, we'll make it simple. The goy put the spices there for the wine. That's the metzias. You're coming over just to smell the spices for whatever the reason is. So your kavana is only to get the smell of the spices. You're not getting any hana'a whatsoever from the yain nesach. If anything, the yain nesach makes it worse. You're not having kavana for it. It doesn't help you. And therefore, if you are getting hana from the aroma of the wine, then it is 100% aser daraisa. But if that's not your machshava, then it's not a problem. Fine. Really, it depends on the mitzias, if you're getting hana and what your kavana is. Fine. Let's move on to zayin. V'samim shel avodah zara the spices that belong to avodah zara, right? And so it's aser. V'kilei akarim also aser. All these orla aser. All these are aser behana. Aser la riach behem. Since aser behana, it's aser to smell them. So again, if you are getting hana from isarna, and that's your kavana, for sure it's aser. But if there's right, that's pretty straightforward. I think. Okay, let's pause it for 1 second. Okay, we are continuing with Siman Kuf Tet. Din yavesh b'yavesh shenit arif. Okay. Famous sugya of two solid items, two dry solid items that get mixed together. So what do we do?
Three.
Aleph.
Hmm?
What?
Two.
Usually three. Right. Three or more is really the question. Because then you have rov. Chaticha she'ena re'uya li'schabed. So we're talking obviously about a piece of meat that's not re'uya li'schabed. Because we learned generally a piece of meat, those halachas over there, whenever it's under re'uya li'schabed, afilu be'elef lo batil. So here we're talking about a normal pieces, regular pieces, shenit arvu be'acheros. It gets mixed in with others. Min b'mina. So we're talking about a min b'mina, the same type, and it's yavish v'yavish, and it's the two dry pieces, right? You can hold them both per se. Then we're going to see, even if it's in a liquid medium in between them, it's still called yavish v'yavish regarding those two items. Like if you have pieces of meat in a soup pot, so you have 5 pieces of kosher meat, and you get 1 piece of treif meat mixed in there. So you look, for this halacha, you look at all the pieces, even if it's cooked, not cooked, whatever, you look at all the pieces, and you have to just remove, we're going to see that this is the same case, that they're all considered yavish v'yavish, and fine, we'll see. If it all got cooked together, then you might have issues of batul b'shishim. Okay, let's keep going. Dahainu she'eno nivlo. In other words, anytime we're discussing pieces that are not absorbed and mixed into each other, I think most agree, the Shach quotes the Bach, that if you're having dry flour with flour, since it's all tiny little pieces that get mixed into each other, that has the same din as lach belach. So that you wouldn't get the same heter. The heter of yavish v'yavish, it's the hainu she'eno nivlal, the ha'isr omed be'atzmo. Each one isr is identifiable by itself. Ala shenit arif, but they get mixed in, pieces of meat. Ve'eno makiro. And you can't recognize the pieces of meat. They all look just like meat. They all are pieces of meat. But one of them was an avela and the other ones are all kosher. So then the halacha is, chad bitrei batil. So this is the din d'oraisa, and we're going to see also din also, okay, we're going to qualify the din d'Rabbanan, but basically it still is mid'Rabbanan as well. We say as long as you have 2-to-1 ratio, then as long as you have, well, as long as you have the majority, as long as depends how many pieces you have. As long as you have the majority kosher, then they're all kosher. You go after rov. The post can point out, based on the pasuk of Achrei Rabim Lahatos. So it's based on there that you go after the rov, and therefore they all become mutter. Okay. Now, the Shach points out you can sometimes have the 2 pieces. You can have, let's say it's 3 pieces. Keep it simple. Chad b'trei. That's your typical standard case. 2-to-1, but of course it's any majority numbers. So then let's say you have 2 small pieces, and that's kosher, and 1 big piece that's treif. So the bigger one is treif, but the smaller ones you have 2 of. So he said, and you don't know which is which. So he says that's also called chad b'trei, and it's batel.
How do you not know? The issue is bigger than obviously makiro.
It is, right, in a situation where you don't know. And if you look in the Gilyon Maharsha, he just points out it's a machlokas achronim, how to understand the shach. Does the shach mean to say you have 2 tiny pieces, and you put them together, you add them together, it's still smaller than the 1 big piece that's, or do you need at least the volume between all of them together for the majority still to be majority? Anyway, so that's Safek in the Gilyon Maharsha. Let's see, anything else we need to mention? I think we said everything. Okay, let's keep going. So we said chad b'trei batel. Umutter le'ochlan, and you're allowed to eat, all right? You're allowed to eat them. Adam echad, kol echad b'fnei atzma. So the Shulchan Aruch's first opinion is he says, L'maisa, what do? you can eat, one person can eat all three pieces, but not all three at the same time, right? Our case is two kosher, one treif. So you're allowed one person, even the guy who cooked it, whatever it is, the guy who bought it, doesn't matter, right? He's allowed to eat all three pieces, just you can't eat all three at the same time. The Shach points out you could eat two at the same time, but you can't eat all three at the same time. Not all three at the same time. So the Rashba points out that that's only a chumrah midarabanan, because mikar din, the din Torah is chag b'trei batil, and now the halacha is we say they're all mutter. That's the halacha of Isser v'heter, and it becomes all mutter. And if they're all mutter, then you can eat them all at the same time. There's no reason not to. It just doesn't look good because you know one of them was treif. So therefore, midarabanan, we don't let you do that. Okay, but again, we're talking about yavish, bemin, bemino. If it's a davar lach, we learned belach, we learned that it has to be shishim midarabanan. Fine. Fine. Okay. Before I go on, I'm just going to point out an interesting Priya Magadim. He points out that what happens if you have two and one, and they're in two different rooms, or they're two different places. You got three pieces of meat, and then you found out afterwards one of them was treif. They're in two different fridges, two different rooms. One's upstairs, one's downstairs, the storage room, whatever you have, the garage. So most achronim say you still say chad b'trei, because at the end of the day, to you there are three pieces, and you still don't know what's the din by one of them. And so says the Yad Yehuda, Zivchit Tzedek, Rabbi Kiva Eger, Chazanish. They all say you still apply the principle of chad b'trei batel. They don't have to be together in the same pot near each other. Okay, there is one opinion. There's more of a das yachid in binas adam. That's the chachmas adam is machmer. How close together, I don't know. And Kaf HaChaim just says it's good to be machmer unless there's a hefsed meruba. So okay. Interesting. Now, so the first opinion of the Shulchan Aruch we learned, you can eat them all, just not at the same time. Okay, now we're going to get to a few more opinions, and then I'll just relist them again. Now, the second opinion in the Mechaber, not the Stam opinion, he holds that one person cannot eat all three. They're all kosher, but you got to share one of them with your friend. You can eat two, but one you have to give to your friend because it doesn't look right. Okay, that's that opinion. This opinion is Tosfos. The Rosh is the one who holds one person can eat them. Yeah. The Rosh actually is the opinion that says one person can eat all of them even at the same time. The Shulchan Aruch does not even quote the Rosh, maybe in the Beis Yosef, but it's not quoted the halach at all. Tosfos is the one that's the middle opinion. The Rashba is the first opinion in the Shulchan Aruch that says one person can eat all of them, but not at the same time. Tosfos says you have to share. That's the third opinion. Okay, now let's keep reading. We're going to get to two more opinions. Haga. So the Ramah says it's best to hold like this opinion of Tosfos, to share it with somebody. V'yesh machmirin. Now there's even a more strict opinion that says you can eat two of them, but one of them, lahashlich echad olitein lagoya. Throw one in the garbage or give one of them to a non-Jew. This is Rashi's opinion. Ve'eno ela chumra be'alma. And the Ramah writes that Rashi is only a chumra be'alma. Okay. Now,
Rashi thinks so too? That it doesn't look well?
yeah, that's funny. Of course, that was Rashi's opinion. And the Maharam was machmer on himself, Maharam Rottenberg. Now, the fifth opinion, that's also not mentioned here in the Shulchan Aruch or the Ramah, is the Rambam. The Rambam writes, he doesn't hold to this din. He holds chad b'trei is actually aser. Midaraisa it's mutter, but midarabanan you still need shishim That's in Perek Tedvav. According to the Rambam, you need shishim, even chad betray. And he also didn't get a special mention over here. They're not. Okay, so those are the 5 opinions from Kula to Chumrah, Rosh, Rashba, Tosos, Rashi, Rambam. Okay, let's, if we're stopping, let me see if we want to finish the Ramah. Let's just finish the Ramah. This is, we've already mentioned, it's Yavish v'Yavish and Min b'Mino. Aval Shalo b'Mino, if it's not b'Mino, v'Ein Makiro, and even if you can't identify it. Right? We had this sometimes. How, for example, so the Shach points out, it gets chopped into tiny little pieces and it's mixed in with the sauce, and you can't tell the difference anymore, even though they look different, but but now they're small. You can't recognize them. Could also be a case of you have.
Which one was the also one? That's all. In the 2 minutes.
Right. You can. Oh, he's saying our case over here is min be'eno mino. Okay.
And you didn't remember which one's the other one.
Exactly. Right. To complete the minimum, you don't know which one was aser. Fine. You could also have pieces of meat that are all the same mean, but they're aser because they got a bli of aser. And now you have little pieces, so you can't tell them apart. But it could have a taste, and it could be eno mino because of that way. Anyway, whatever. Let's just keep going. A case of eno b'mino, min b'she'eno mino, and you can't tell. Afilu yavesh b'yavesh tzarich shishim. Regardless what the case is, you need shishim. Ve'ein chiluk b'kol zeh bein ima iser midarabanan o midaraisa. And it makes no difference if the iser itself is an Isser Machal Darabanan or Isser Machal Midaraisa. Either way, everything that needs Chad B'Trei Batel that's the halacha, and everything that needs Shishim, that needs Shishim. And by the command, Kuf Chabet, Im Nitargu Kelim B'Yachad, we'll get to Kelim later, and I think now's a good time to stop.